Hey everybody, welcome to Ecuador News. Today we're going to talk about the potential for a 2026 electricity crisis based on all of the data we have today. So let's see what my prediction is. So some of you are probably thinking, why would we have an electricity crisis? Because 2025 was no crisis at all. The crisis was back in 2024, so they must have fixed everything. Well, they fixed a few things, but really not that much. And we'll talk about that, why there's the difference. So in 2024, we of course had a severe drought. There was no maintenance that was done on all of the thermal that Ecuador has. And of course, with the drought, we have problems with our hydroelectric power, which all of the levels of the reservoirs were basically down to nothing. And there was no private backup facilities at all, and it was a very late reactive response. 2025, well, we had rain. And that's the biggest factor. I would love to say, oh, the government fixed everything and everything's fine now, not to worry. But the reality is we had a ton of rain in 2025 in the important areas. When you talk about rain, the rain has to be where the reservoirs are, with the biggest one being the Mazar reservoir. So we had the rain. We did improve. The government did improve new capacity on the thermal front, and we had a huge increase in private generation, which was absolutely critical. And we had some, proactive early warning type systems and import deals with Colombia, where we get a lot of the electricity in 2025. So overall, the outcome was quite good. Well, here we are heading into 2026, and I have some additional news for you, which you're probably not going to like. So it's a pretty busy infographics, this particular one, and I really want to draw your attention to the bottom part, is that 2025 was the opportunity to basically fix everything in Ecuador so we wouldn't have these types of issues again. And you can see at the very bottom, that bar chart, the planned public was 1,854 megawatts, and the actual delivered, which was public and private, is 1,361 megawatts. So, we really are short still. And there's nothing new coming on the horizon that's going to fix that shortfall in the short term. So we really are still counting on rain and Colombia. Those are the two things we're really counting on right now. And so let's sort of see what the prediction is, where we're going. So here's my prediction based on the current issues that we have. So in January, I call it fragile stability. So we're starting to see a drought appear, or potential drought appear, towards, it was at the sort of end of December and into January, where the Mazar reservoir levels are gradually starting to drop. And the reserves are estimated to be 60 days at best, if the drought continues there. As we move into February was really the tipping point where things start to change. Is the buffer that we have is really starting to run thin, and there could be some planned cut increases, and they would be very small at that point. The real issue is when we hit March, is if that drought continues that I talked about that has started over the reservoir, and if that continues into March, we are having some bigger bigger rationing, bigger planned outages. Now, of course, the government is saying there's going to be no outages in 2026. So their prediction is different from mine. I will just let you know that their predictions in the past almost has always been wrong when it comes to electricity. They tend to overpromise and under-deliver, like most politicians and governments. So March, the other thing that's happening is the Colombia deal is becoming due. So it expires. We'd have to, do another deal. The only way they're going to do another deal with Colombia to be able to handle March is if Colombia is not also having a drought. So remember in 2024, Colombia was having a drought, almost as bad as Ecuador, but they have a much more diversified electricity grid, so it didn't affect them as much. But they could not sell us for much of 2024. They could not sell us any sizable amounts of electricity. So that's really dependent there. And of course, from April onward, again, it depends on what the weather is and what's going on with the Colombia deal. And it's very, very hard to predict. Scenario A would be the rains return and we have no cuts or very short cuts. And scenario B is we don't have the rain, they're delayed, and then we start, that's the worst case scenario, we start having extended blackouts, 8 hours plus. I think that is more on the unlikely stage. We don't have El Nino here, and not that I'm an expert in weather prediction, but I think more likely March we may have some rationing and some hopefully minor cuts, and then hopefully by April things start to improve dramatically. And of course, I could be entirely wrong here, which I'm sure many of you will point that out to me if this drought stops pretty soon over the reservoirs and it starts to rain, and life is good and we can talk about other problems on Ecuador News. So in the final chart here, you can see, it just basically repeats what I've said. We got the Colombia import risk, we got the reservoir plummeting, and we have a generation deficit. And you can see again the time frames repeated, just in a different chart to make it more clear. And the real world impact, if this does take place, is extended blackouts. And the other thing that we shouldn't forget was the economic disruption. You can't really run businesses very well without electricity. And of course, our social disruption, our daily life is interrupted, as many of us have gone through that. And of the action required is immediate conservation. I'm not aware of anything that they've published yet encouraging people to conserve. And of course, we need immediately rapid deployment of backup power, crucial to avoid, this crisis. Anyway, thanks for watching Ecuador News. If it's something that you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. There'll be many more Ecuador News in 2026, covering all of the major issues in Ecuador. Thanks a lot. Take care.